Yep, and head judge Nat Fairbanks has issued the correct ruling. Sacred Ground will put any creatures that die to the disc back in play, even though the disc is destroying Sacred Ground. Bob fires up Fairy Conclave. He's going to fire up Treetop Village and leave up 2 blue, right? Seems like, yeah, tap both Treetop Villages. That way he can leave the Reflecting Pool untapped and have 3 blue sources available. He doesn't lose to Wasteland.
Sorry.
Davis has to blow the disc here, right?
Absolutely, yeah, and that's where was really his intention. This was kind of all predetermined.
And he should have Wasteland in his hand ready for next turn, but...
Yeah.
May draw a card.
Compost does trigger.
Right back into play. So, these...
The Necropotence, by the way, the same ruling that allows Bob's land to come back into play, also hurts Brian in that Bob gets to draw a card off his Compost when the Necro goes to the graveyard. So Bob got another card up out of that.
Right. Bob drew several cards off that Compost, but unfortunately his draw has been relatively poor, and he hasn't been able to draw the high-quality cards that he had game 1.
He got an Impulse, and he Impulse for a creature land.
How many cards have you? I have 4.
And those creature lands are pretty threatening. There's 4 creature lands there.
Right. The only problem is, given that... That's interesting. Let's see, could Davis have Necro there?
He could have.
He opted not to.
He chose not to. How much damage does he have in his hand? His plan at this point has to be to race. He has a Corrupt and a Drain, and Bob's at 13.
Yeah, he can.
He can Corrupt for 8 and then Drain for But Bob has a counterspell, so he's going to Persecute blue, presumably.
Blue.
You don't need to name yet. He said Persecute blue.
Right.
The right play is to say Persecute. Are you countering? But he tipped his hand. He did the same thing with a Consult earlier. I thought earlier he might have done it on purpose because he wanted to spell counter. Maybe he wanted this one countered. But
this is a strange game where quite the opposite of game 1, where game 1 it completely looks like Davis is going to win and Bob Maher ends up pulling it out, and then this game after Compost gets dropped with Sacred Ground, you completely think that Bob's going to win, and now it looks like Davis is in the driver's seat, where if Bob doesn't draw a counter spell or something to stop the Drain Life or Corrupt, whichever one he holds, that Davis is going to win. So this match really seems like it could go either way, even though the early turns seem like it's going to be a lopsided match.
So he can go Dark Ritual, Corrupt you for 8.
That's right, and then next turn drain him out. And the key here is for Davis not to be afraid. He's got to try and kill him here while he's got the opportunity. If he doesn't try to end the game here, things could get disastrous by giving Bob too many draws to draw into something. The only problem is...
He's also going to take a beating from creature lands if he doesn't gain some life here.
Right. We're going to need to do some math on whether that Swords to Plowshares in Bob's hand will allow him to live. He's got 8 play. So if he Rituals, Corrupts for 8, that would put Bob at 5.
Right.
The following turn, he drops a land, putting him at 9, and can drain for 7, which...
Plow takes Bob up to 8.
Right, which puts Bob at 1. Yep. So, oddly, the correct play here, if he could see Bob's hand, would be to say good done.
He says done.
And Davis, who seems to have...
He's afraid of Force of Will. Bob only has 2 cards in his hand.
I don't think...
Now, can Brian win this game if Bob has Force of Will? How does it help to let Bob untap? How does that help?
I don't know. I think someone's standing behind Bob and signaling to Davis what Bob has in his hand, because this guy's just crazy. He seems to always know what to do. Always. It's just amazing. Like, it's uncanny. Like, once in a while he'll make a mistake, but for the vast majority of the time, he seems to have, like, some psychic ability to know when to hold off and when to go for it. I don't really understand it, because he wouldn't know the Swords to Plowshares in his hand.
I'm not convinced he should be playing around Plow.
Yeah, he probably shouldn't be, but it's going to work for his advantage hugely, given that Bob didn't draw a counterspell, and as long as Brian Davis still tries to Corrupt and Drain Life him out.
He drew a land, so now he's fine.
Now he's got to do it. I mean, his back's to the wall now. There's no stopping it here.
Corrupt you? How much is it for? 9? Sure.
Corrupt you for 9? Sure. All right, Davis goes up to 12. Bob drops to 4.
Now, at this point, he should know that there is no counterspell in Bob's hand, because Bob would certainly counter this, because then he would just attack and win the game the next turn. So, if Davis thinks it through, he should know there's no counterspell in Bob's hand. Now, will Bob draw a counterspell? He draws a Light Tutor. That shouldn't do it. Davis should win this game.
Any way for
Remarkable.
Bob to win? Despite discarding a Wasteland, Davis wins anyway. He just outraces him with drains and corrupts to the head.
This is a very, very exciting final. I think this might go down to the wire.
Yeah, now Davis has got to have a little confidence. If he really does win this game, he's still a little nervous right now. He's like, Bob draws a counterspell. Bob pulled stuff out, had something up his sleeve last game.
The only thing we had better hope is that he doesn't drain him for 4, or even drain for 7. He's got to drain him for the full maximum.
Yeah, the only way Maher wins this game is if Davis drains for 4. I mean, Davis could say drain for 4. If Davis says drain for 4, then Maher is going to take a 2-0 lead.
Yeah, and we might see a grown man cry.
He's 15, he's not a grown man.
Activate. Alright. Attack.
Yeah, as long as Davis sinks everything into the drain, he wins. 2 treetop villages knock Davis down to 6. So it's 6-4. Did Brian just reach over and tap Miser's Cage? Yeah, he reached over, he tapped the Miser's Cage. Come on, don't say 4! Shh, don't, guys, be quiet.
Turn you for 4.
Oh my God. I can't believe he did that. All he has to do is tap 3 more lands.
What's amazing here?
It's too late. He said drain life for 4.
What's
it's on the
amazing
stack.
here? What's amazing here is the top deck of the disc is the worst card he can draw, because then he's
left
actually
4 mana for the
tempted to
disc.
leave the 4 mana open
Doesn't
for the
matter.
disc. If he draws an utter piece of garbage, he won't keep 4
Oh my.
mana open for the disc. And guess what happens next turn? He's got an Enlightened Tutor in his hand.
Oh my.
Anybody have any
Mask.
guesses what Bob's gonna
Is
Enlightened
it a
Tutor for?
Mercadian Masks card?
So despite
Oh,
the
it's an
fact,
aura. How can he?
Okay.
Bob Maher Jr.
you should go for the 2 cast and cost Null Rod.
He scoops. Tutor. It doesn't matter what he gets. Bob Maher Jr. takes a 2